borderline, but we'll have to see how it plays out. Latin America, a little easier. Caribbean could potentially work, but you have a island logistical challenge that is non-trivial, and I think you could do some good work in Europe, like Montelibro or one of those, but you need the willingness to sacrifice again. Like Montenegro is a small country, it's got an ocean. I think it borders the EU even, just barely on the Croatia side. Like that's got potential. So
Montenegro
I
just
don't know.
joined the
To me,
EU. It's joined it. It's just it's now part of the Schengen visa system. So used to be that people from my country could go there
who
without
is
visa, Montenegro, and now you have to,
Croatia?
no, I'm talking about Montenegro actually. Croatia as well, part of the EU.
Montenegro is not Schengen.
Okay, I have to double check as well what kind of news I read. But generally, like you see,
Croatia just joined Schengen like
oh, it's Croatia. Excuse me.
maybe 6 months ago.
That's it. That's it. But like everyone wants to become part of the EU
Yeah.
now, and um, yeah, like is EU that strong in terms of
Yeah.
what's to come? But that's why I know I'm so bullish on like the land that we got here, and it's just understanding how to negotiate and present, and maybe that's already in kind of in plans, is to provide lands for people who are ready to build here. I'm not sure. Again, I can't speak for it. I wish I could talk to Snowden and people like that because I'm sure they onto something that I'm not aware of. I just intuitively feel that there's going to be opportunity. I just need to be prepared to listen and read between the lines, really.
I kind of have the opposite approach or thought. I think that Russia had a huge opportunity pre last year
Mm,
to take over. COVID was Russia's shot. If during COVID Russia said that we're open for everything, we're open for business, we're like, come join Russia and we're gonna like become the new center of the West, they could have exploded with demand and population. But after this war with Ukraine, they're gonna have like they lost too many smart Russians. How many like uh, highly educated tech workers and other types fled Russia in the last year?
yeah, yeah, that is making up Metaslavia. But yeah, totally. Yeah. But at the same time, I believe it's planned out one way or another, and if we're able to see beyond this past year and beyond the terrible, destruction, I believe that there will be a window of opportunity one way or another, just because of again the mass scale of the land and the resources. I
But
I
the
mean,
land
if it
is the
was up to
weakness of
me,
Russia.
what is it?
Russia's land mass is its weakness.
Why?
The reason
Too
its
big.
government must be so authoritarian is because it needs to keep this massive country with dozens of ethnic groups united. And Russia shouldn't be a country. There's a reason no other country is this big. It's really hard to maintain a country this big with so many different people. And like doing that, if Russia just cut in half and said that the western half of Russia will stay and the other half will go away, I think it would be much better off and more competitive. I don't know where you would cut it. When does it become Eastern?
Don't cut Russia,
I
please.
would, and I don't know the resources. Are there any oil fields or gas fields need to be kept? But just in terms of like logistically for the country, It now has a nice Black Sea access. Maintain the Black Sea access. Give Ukraine like Eastern Russia as compensation, and let them deal with the pain of managing that massive landmass and many ethnic groups.
I hear you. I hear you. I must say I'm not agreeing, but I hear you. I hear your point. I think there could be another solution to deal with such huge lands. I do believe in tribal, like not the same way that like the current governments work in terms of like regional, governments, but rather giving people pieces of land and different elements of that land and helping these migrate people who migrate to build their own basically micro countries within the country. So instead of separating, rather creating a completely different concept of what the country could be. That way it will be, I believe, stronger,
What
like more of
happens
like a
when you do
Burning
that?
Man. What?
When the Chechnyans get Chechnya and the Siberians get Siberia, and I mean, I don't know any other ethnic groups in Russia, but as everyone gets their own, why would they not just want to be a country?
Yeah, so the solution here is to onboard people around the world to move to these places to collaborate with the locals so that there are new countries being basically built or new settlements being built in integrating the intelligence and the experience of these people. Like right now, there is a big trend of decentralizing Moscow, so that other regions are, the economy of other regions are being, better. So it's like similarly to invite people from different countries to come and build on these different lands and test drive different governance systems, like little different DAOs, around different places, and not make them compete, but definitely use information in an open source way to be able to move people from one place to another and test and see where they'd like to be. And this concept of scale technocracy, where you can choose whether you want to go to the village that is completely outside of the internet and metaverse, or go to a completely technocratic space like what Dubai is becoming or China is, and having these options set like a scale, and you can select similarly to what Burning Man is, that you can go to this camp and experience this thing, go to another camp, experience completely different thing, and you're still in one location, one environment, kind of operated by the same set of rules that are very basic. Does that make sense? I know it's very
Do you
idealistic.
think the EU should be one country?
Oh, wow, 100%. Yeah, look, I've been living between, Lisbon and Prague. And yeah, totally. Like, there's literally no difference, honestly, even though they really care about
So
their
you think they
culture.
should absolve the national borders and just be the capital is Brussels and there's a central government that rules?
Yeah, I don't know if Brussels would be the capital, but definitely, I mean, or maybe moving capital like the EU has, like, they have their, country of like governance, I guess, different each year. So right now it's Czech Republic, funnily enough. So I believe that will be a moving caravan of this, governmental hand, so that all these different areas can be synchronized and, yeah, and of course, like Europe is way too small to be so many different countries, really.
Yeah, I think it's the opposite. I think Europe should be thousands of countries, not
Like
dozens.
city
Like
states,
there's
then you're talking
massive
about city
differences,
states. That's different thing, right?
both city states and larger regions. Like think of the German regions. There's big difference between Bavaria and some of the other regions in Germany. Like same thing for any country. Like Italy. Northern Italy is basically German. Southern Italy is very different culture. Spain, you have the Catalonians, like they want their own country. The Basque, they want their own country. Why are we forcing all of these people to be ruled by, like, I don't know, it's, in the US we say we're ruling 350 million people from one city. Does that make sense? No matter who wins, half the country is miserable. Why don't we just break it up and then more people can be happier and get what they want? The Californians can get rid of guns. If they hate guns so much, they don't need to have them.
Mm-hmm.
And other states that like them can have more guns. So it seems that we need more governments. I want 8 billion governments. That's my end goal.
Okay, and then we need to have that many people to be able to hold this kind of space for their people. And look, I totally hear you, and yeah, I'm closer to agreeing with you than and disagreeing. I see your point, but then we do need people who can hold such safe and yeah, safe spaces for the people and make sure that there is
The,
governance set up.
the only safe space is a privately owned space. Like we need to move from public spaces to private spaces. Public spaces are inherently vulnerable to like the mob. If the mob decides that we want to do something, then they do it. Whether that's vaccine mandates or crazy taxes or changing the education system to make all the woke stuff mandatory. You can't do that in a private space. So we need private cities, not just city states. They should be run by people who bear the consequence for their decisions. If a business does something stupid, then they lose money. If a government does something stupid, they may actually make money from it because now they have an excuse to expand. It's like, oh, we created this economic crisis. Now we gotta, have a big budget to bail ourselves out. So, I would say we have to go private, and even the idea of governments and countries are questionable at best. We should just have privately owned and operated landlords, and if they want people to come, they have to provide good services. And I think that will result in the most options and safest spaces for people of all types. For people who are super woke and never want to see anything that would trigger them, there can be a city for them where that's the rule. And for people who are white nationalists and never want to see anyone non-white, they can have a city too. And everyone can have their preferences implemented.
Wow, very cool. I get it. I understand what you're saying. I see it. I'll let it land and integrate into my philosophy and view of the world. I mean, it's constantly shaping. That's why I tend to also share a thing and then be like, oh, I don't believe that anymore.
Free private cities.
Mm-hmm.
Titus's book, Free Private Cities, explains this theory pretty well. And then afterwards, there's a follow-up based on the Morazan-Zedi model that I think takes it to the final stage. But Free Private Cities is in multiple. I wonder if it's in Russian. I assume you speak Russian, right?
I would prefer to, read it in English still to be able to communicate that in English, since it's still by consensus on the whole world. It's like the language for us for now. I'm looking it up right now. I'll definitely read it. Thank you. And then you said to follow up. The follow up is Zeti's. What is it called?
You can message me when you're ready for the follow up. I don't want to overwhelm
Sounds good.
people. It's better to give them just one.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
Free Private Cities is English, German, Portuguese, Spanish, French, and Italian. So they need a Russian version, and maybe you'll like it, and you can help them to translate it into their first Slavic language.
Right.
Maybe all of the Slavic languages eventually.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Super nice.
If you want a Slavic country, this is the path to get it. A nice free private city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, but I really see the vision that you just shared with like multiple private cities and them, yeah, like having space for anyone and having a good like portfolio about what the city stands for so that people can share and yeah, share their values and choose where they'd like to be and still freely travel. Just having maybe a application process of a
And you
kind.
can change throughout your life.
Exactly.
When you're young, you might want something different than when you're, now you have a family. And suddenly, like the gay pride parades and all that kind of stuff aren't as fun. And then when you're old, you might want like no kids allowed. You just want it to be quiet and peaceful. So it's like options are good. We need more options, more competition. And that's how we get a better world and more freedom. So I'm on Team Free Cities, and I hope you join and bring as many people as you can. And then if we all start working to build them, putting in time and money, we have a shot. Because the fact that Prospera, the best attempt to date, only has the 100 million spent is kind of concerning. Like Prospera should be a multi-billion-dollar project.
And
Like 100 million is nothing.
it started in 2020. Is that correct?
Yeah, around there.
So it's coming. You know,
Pretty sure
give it time.
FTX paid more than 100 million to name a stadium in Miami. So
Right.
it's like if companies pay that much for naming rights, we can't even build a city. Like it's just huge misallocation. So we gotta change that little by little, person by person, until we can, get there. And maybe one way you can contribute is opening a Zeddy company or a Catawba company or something like that. You can kind of donate to the project and get something in return potentially. So I like that all these jurisdictions sell companies. I think it's a cool way to generate money for a jurisdiction without taxing directly.
Cool. Thank you so much for this.
But
Honestly,
yeah,
Alex, Sean, thank you for you're really like shaping, deeply shaping in a very kind and beautiful way, shaping my views and perspectives on things in a way that is not breaking my perspectives, but rather integrating and clarifying. I appreciate you. Yeah, I do. I appreciate both of you. Thank you. I'll be reading
I
Alex
thank
that
you
book.
for joining us
Such a good
and look forward
church.
to future discussion.
Give Lotus Church. Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
let's meet again.
Next Thursday. Good night.
Good night. Good night. Thank you both.